Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield on this Tuesday, January 16th. We still got a bunch of topics waiting to be decided. We don't know where Eagle's going yet, but we now have one of the big dominoes that has fallen. Gannon Buhr has signed a 3-year deal with Discmania. It was announced over the weekend, early Saturday morning. And so they got their man. After they lost Eagle this offseason, Simon last offseason, Discmania lands Gannon. They tried to get him last year, pull him away from the Prodigy contract. Prodigy said, no thanks, we're going to go to court. And they won that battle. But in the end, Discmania does land the number one, maybe number two, if you like Isaac Robinson, most promising up-and-coming player in the sport right now.
You pair him with Kyle Klein, and Discmania now has two major winners headlining their MPO team, and it's obviously a different look than the Simon Eagle look, but it is, as you said, two incredibly promising young players who really have the potential to be some of the best in the sport, and I think that's an opportunity for Discmania to build on moving forward, and may have a pretty bright silver lining in the loss of Simon and Eagle.
You know, I've been thinking about this because I feel like the narrative right now, even after the Gannon signing, is that like Discmania is cooked. You know, they lost the most popular players. People aren't going to care anymore. And for a lot of people, maybe Gannon doesn't move the needle. And I want to throw up the fandom survey. This is just like, how popular are the pros, right? So Simon, number one, we talked plenty about that. Eagle's up there. I don't know. He's like 10th or so. And then you got to kind of go down there a little bit. And then there's Kyle Klein. And then you got to go down a little bit more. And then there's Gannon Buhr. Now, Gannon's still among the top, 15 most popular MPO players. So it's not like he's, chopped liver or something. But they are not obviously the same duo that Simon and Eagle were from just like current snapshot standpoint of where things are in 2023. But if you win, and I think we have a very good chance of seeing a lot of winning from Kyle and Gannon, you will become popular. It's that simple. Like we already saw Isaac Robinson's stock jump a ton in the wake of his two major wins this year. And I think if you think about the next generation of disc golf buyers, who is it? It's not people who've been around the sport for 10 years or even 5 years, right? Since COVID, let's say.
I don't know, Charlie. Your mystery box purchases are keeping companies afloat right now.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do my part. But I think that you're going to see Gen Z gravitate to players who are closer to their age, and I would bet you right now that Gannon Buhr is one of the most popular players among like teenagers, and like that's not a big part of the market right now, but as you look forward, that's where the sales are going to go. So I think that this ultimately, my point is that I think this is a very smart signing for Discmania, and that would it be better for them to have kept Eagle or to sign Gannon? If you can only do one, right? And maybe they could only afford to do one. If you can only do one, who would you rather have? I think today you'd rather have Eagle, but I think tomorrow you'd rather have Gannon.
Switching sponsors also is an opportunity for players to kind of shed baggage, shed an old image, and kind of reinvent, rebrand in a way that not only is beneficial for the company to move plastics, but also is beneficial for the player. Gannon carries some things with him that I think will be an amazing opportunity by switching sponsors over to Discmania. First off, when he was kind of broke into the scene, he was only 16 years old. Crafting a media image as a 16-year-old in a professional sporting world is very difficult to do and to do well. He's older now. He's a little bit more mature. You can already see the way he interacts with content and media via social media is very different than it was when he first was on the scene in a way that I think has earned him a lot of popularity. And number two, Prodigy still leaves a bad taste in people's mouths because of the Dickerson situation, because whatever reason. And so that association with Prodigy, there are some people who just don't throw Prodigy plastic. That's another thing that I think hold Gannon back. And third, I saw a lot of people, I mean, it was pretty 50-50 split with the contract dispute over Prodigy, that Gannon needed to just stay and do his contract. And this was especially coming from, like you were talking, I saw a lot of people who were been around the sport a long time who said, this young kid needed to fulfill his obligation and his contract that he'd signed with Prodigy. And that he did that. It's done. It got settled in the court, and now he's moving on. It's an opportunity for Gannon to leave all of that behind. And I think with how much Gannon wins, as you mentioned, it's only a matter of time before he skyrockets in popularity.
And I just think, like, it's hard to imagine what it looks like once Gannon's been on tour for many years. Like, we think of players like Simon and Eagle, and like, if you've come into the sport since COVID, you've just known them right there. They've just been they've been a known quantity. And like, Simon's resurgence story has been one of the dominant themes. And, Eagle consistently winning, playing at the top level of the sport, consistent theme. But like, Gannon, in a way has, but he didn't. When did he win his first tour event? 22, right? Because this past year,
he won USDGC 2021. And then tour event.
No, he won USDGC in 2022.
2022. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. And then last year was his first.
2022 Vegas, right? That's when he almost beat Drew Gibson in the playoff.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, this kid is really here. And so then he wins a little bit later in the season. Then he wins USDGC, and then he follows it up with a very good season. Top 4 season among all MPOs. And so, it just hasn't been that long since he has been a staple on tour. And, I think that there's a huge marketing opportunity with Kyle and Gannon together. I think we're going to start seeing them making content. I think we're going to see Kyle's. This is a boost for Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Kyle wasn't really ever brought into the Simon and Eagle camp,
They tried.
Kinda. But, like, remember when Kyle was wearing Eagle's shirt, and it was kind of like this funny... Like, Eagle's like, kind of like,
you're not beating me in my own
mad,
shirt. Yeah.
But like, kind of just playing with his little brother. I don't know. I just feel like there's an opportunity for Kyle to really become more of a media face on the back of some of the other players. Now, some of this maybe has to do with whether Alden Harris signs with Discmania, which is the large, wide assumption that will happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this, Discmania is not dead, and I, having done this for a long time now, I will never declare any manufacturer dead, no matter what happens in the offseason, because people have been writing the obituary of Prodigy for years, and what do? They go out and win more majors than other manufacturers half the time.
They have a good eye for young talent. They absolutely deserve credit for that. The other thing that I think is noteworthy is... And I briefly mentioned this, but if Alden Harris especially joins Discmania, Simon and Eagle really capitalized on like the YouTube era, right? Like, they were the first and the best vloggers really to kind of establish that, and that presence on YouTube was at a point where the professional scene the pros weren't making that kind of content nearly as much. I think Gannon and Alden Harris are some of the best at the sport when it comes to just utilizing social media, and not YouTube necessarily, but shorter 30 or 15-second videos. And that's going to be something that Kyle's going to be a part of as well. It was very closely followed and enjoyed. I still remember the time Gannon overlaid us making fun of his chalk bag with the video, and he, like, so good. It's such a good sign of awareness during this kind of waiting period before he announced with Discmania. He went on an MVP group page and asked what's the most overstable run of Envy. Like,
yeah, he was clever. Full troll this whole time.
Yes. And that's a level of social media savvy that I think really does give him some opportunities to build a brand with Discmania that Alden and Kyle can be a part of, that will sell discs and will be good for Discmania as a brand.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little worn out by the trolling from everybody, though. I'm a little worn out. The speculation now is that the Nicholas Antela post was just a ruse, and that his big announcement is that he's being upgraded to the Sky team on Discmania. And like, why? I mean, like, okay, here we are talking about it, I guess. Yeah. But it's just going to be annoying to me if that's the outcome. And like, all love to Nicholas, I think Discmania did the right thing by keeping him. Now, this is not fully announced, but there's like a YouTube video from Discmania that said they had a big team announcement coming, I think later today, actually. Maybe by the time this podcast is out, we'll have that. And, then it went private, and Nicholas posted a hourglass on his Insta story. So like, good for them, but like, I don't know. All the trolling is like taking it out of me, because ultimately what's happened so far this offseason is that every single rumor has been true. Mm-hmm. It's you can't deny it. It's not as interesting an offseason as last year. Am I right?
Yeah. Oh, you're absolutely right.
So I want to talk a little bit about the fact that this is only a 3-year deal, because the big name players have all been signing 4+ year deals over the last couple of seasons, right? So obviously you've got your mega deals, McBeth and Simon with 10 years. I mean, Kyle Klein signed a 4-year deal. Chris Dickerson and Ricky Wysocki signed 4-year deals. James Conrad just recently signed a 4-year deal. Matty O just signed a 4-year deal this offseason. You're tending to see 4, even 5-year deals, right? Calvin's on a long-term deal. Only 3 years, expiring, by the way, in the same offseason as the Kyle Klein deal at Discmania. Who's that benefiting? Do you think that's good for Gannon, good for Discmania, both?
I think it's probably better for Gannon. Now, let's start with Gannon. I want to talk Discmania in just 1 second, but Gannon has a couple things going for him here. Number one is that he is incredibly young. He could go take this 3-year deal. I'm assuming the terms are pretty favorable, pretty good. So he takes this 3-year deal and then really has an opportunity in 3 years to sign the 10-year, right? The long-term deal, or even another 5-year and then his retirement deal. He could have 2 or 3 more of these shorter contracts and still be in his athletic prime before he signs a Simon-esque deal, if that became available. Second is that if you're optimistic about the disc golf market and you believe that disc golf is going to continue to grow, then this season is not the best one to sign a long-term deal unless you're being given deals like Simon or right. McBeth, right? Unless you're getting that kind of deal, this is not the season to try and lock yourself down. It's the post-COVID, it's cooling off. Manufacturers are realizing that they way overspent and sponsored players, and we've heard reports from players that the bidding between players and the options available for them to go find deals, it just dried up significantly compared to what it was 2 years ago. And so if you're Gannon and you're looking at the sport, you have to assume or expect that in 3 years the conditions will be more favorable than they are this season. And so given both his age and the current market, I think that's really kind of what you're looking at. Now, if you're Discmania, I think you would love to lock him down, but without knowing exactly what Gannon's sales are like, and because, we talked about the fandom survey, I think there is some risk associated with Gannon and locking him down on the kind of deal that would be required and the amount of money that would be required to get him for 10 years on what is largely unproven in sales, in my opinion, and the sale of discs in order to justify that contract. The 3 years makes sense. You then try and get the 10 years after the 3 years. I actually think this is a pretty mutually beneficial time frame. Yeah. However, when we were chatting, you mentioned, and I think this is spot on, why did they put it to expire the same year as Kyle? You got to negotiate both of them.
Yikes. They may end up in a tricky spot, but
Yeah.
Remember that Paul Macbeth, when he signed with Discraft, signed a 4-year deal. And then a year later, they tore it up and signed a 10-year deal, or maybe just 2 years. But they were like, oh, you're going to sell discs like that. All right.
Yeah.
Here's $1 million a year, guaranteed.
Right.
And you're going to make more than that. Yeah. Now, Gannon Buhr, not there yet. Like, I think we can all agree that he's not there yet. But does he have the potential to get there? Of course he does. Like, it's not like Macbeth is like some social media, wizard or YouTube celebrity, right? He doesn't have the same like natural, easy charisma that Simon has. But you know what he does have? The ability to win. And that is what it takes. And if Gannon can do that, which he certainly can, he will ascend to the top of the sport. Now, we'll probably have some haters, right? Macbeth, where's Macbeth on this list? Throw the chart back up. Macbeth is below James Proctor in average fandom score. Now, why? Because he's got haters. Now, he's probably also dropped a little bit overall just because he hasn't been playing as well. But like, you get good enough, you got people who love you and buy all your discs, and you got haters. Gannon probably doesn't really have too many haters yet, but haters is a sign of strength.
So you made it.
Haters is a sign of strength.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the Dark Knight quote? It's like, you either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Like, I think that quote applies to sports just so well. It really, in my mind, and it's like disc golf especially, I think if Kristen stays dominant, like think of Paige. Paige used to be just like beloved by everybody, and then after a while, like she starts drawing haters out, and that's just how it is.
Kristen will eventually
sports.
catch some haters.
I think she would. If she stays at the top for 3, 4, 5 years, absolutely she's gonna say something wrong in a press conference. Something's going to happen. The Holland Hanley-esque with the spotting of a disc, and the haters are going to come out of the woodwork. It happens. That's what happens when you're good.
So popular right now. Hard to see it, but I think you're right. I mean, narratives change. That's just how it goes.
They do.
So anyway, we'll see what happens. They got a new disc coming out for Gannon at some point. I'm sure they're going to make him his own lineup. We're going to have plenty of questions for Gannon. There's not a lot of details out there yet about what this deal is, what kind of things are going to be a part of this deal, whether there's options for the future in the contract. Who knows what we're going to be getting, but we're going to have a chance to chat with Gannon, and that interview will be out tomorrow morning. So make sure to join us for that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got a action-packed 30-second rule. Stay with us.
At Pound, the quality of our gear runs deeper than the stitching. That's why we make everything right here in the U.S., employing highly skilled, well-paid professionals. From bomb-proof Cordura fabric to YKK zippers and recycled plastics, we source the highest quality U.S. materials to make the most comfortable, durable pack in disc golf. Our lifetime warranty stays with the pack, not the purchaser. So regardless of how you find us, we will be here to make sure your pack stays on the course and out of the landfill. Pound's integrity is held together with more than just thread.
Welcome back to the Upshot. Hit the sirens. We have mid-show recording breaking news. We hit the 10 a.m. Eastern's mark, and everyone's like, okay, the Pixel, it's going to be the Pixel release. Boring, Axiom, Instagram post, MVP. Oh, all this hype for the Pixel release. So lame, bro. And then they double switched. And Simon goes, well, let's watch the video. Play it.
What's up, everyone? Simon Lizotte here at the MVP warehouse with a special announcement. The big announcement everyone's been waiting for, the first release of the 2024 season, and it is the next disc in the Simon line. We have, no, I got the wrong box. Where are the pixels?
Right over here.
So there it is, Josh. Eagle McMahon 5-year deal with MVP. The Crush Boys reunited. All of the rumors were true. And holy smokes, I mean, they have cemented the hype train on the tracks for at least a couple of years with this move.
Absolutely. I think this video actually does a really, really good job. Not only of, number one, I mean, here's the thing. When you have a secret that's not a secret because everybody knows it, that's hard to then create the kind of hype and excitement, especially when you want a release to sell a lot of discs on the initial announcement. Whenever, the cat is very clearly out of the bag. I think they did an excellent job with it in previewing the social media pictures, following up to that point where, I mean, the video was very well done, I thought, and in a way that I think captures kind of that excitement of people to have Simon and Eagle back together. It's not just that MVP is getting Eagle. That is going to be a significant part that I'm sure we'll talk about. But it really does capture kind of the nostalgia of having those two back together in a way that I think was actually very well done in this video and captures that excitement that is going to allow them to sell a lot of plastic.
All right, I want to bring this up because I've been thinking about where's the market share going to be at with MVP after this move. And as always, Infinite Discs has the interesting data that I am looking for. Now, Infinite Discs is merely one retailer. They happen to be a very big one, but it's still a snapshot only. All the caveats you want about this is not the entirety of the market, but they have broken out percentage of sales at infinitediscs.com by manufacturer since 2018. Up through 2023. Okay. This post came out in August of 2023. So mid-year.
Okay.
And so we'll put it up for the YouTube lookers, but let me give you some basic breakdowns. Innova, 37% of their sales in 2018. Second highest actually at that time was Discmania at 9%. Then you had Dynamic Disc at a little under 9%, and Discraft at 7.5%. Okay, let's go to 2021.
Okay.
Innova's share has gone from 37% to 26%. Discraft has more than doubled its market share, up to 18%. Infinite is also selling its own brand. It's basically the only place you can buy it, so that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And let's just check in with MVP and Axiom. 3.5% 2021. For MVP, 3.5% for Axiom. Streamline is way down at 1.2%. So, you add those up and you're around 8 and change.
8%.
Let's call it 8.25. Okay.
8 and change. Okay.
2023.
Great.
MVP, 8.2% of sales. Axiom, 6.3%. Streamline, about 1%. So now you're looking at about 15% combined sales. Guess what? Innova down to 18%. Discraft at 13%. Infinite sitting at 12%. So you're already seeing MVP not only almost catching up to Innova, but surpassing Discraft in terms of total volume of sales. And remember, you couldn't even get MVP discs that you wanted for much of the year because they were just constantly sold out. And Infinite Disc wrote about that more recently in their sort of 2023 end of year stuff. Now they add Eagle. I think this is a moment that we will remember in disc golf where MVP took the financial risk to become one of the major players in disc golf. This will not be a mere hype cycle that quickly dies out and leaves us remembering the moments where, whatever company popped off for a couple of years because they had a big player. This is we are now an established brand forever. And the way that they've handled these last 2 years in terms of their marketing and these sponsorship decisions, just huge.
What is Discmania's percentage at in 2023?
Discmania in 2023, 4%.
I'm hard pressed to think that doesn't take a hit as MVP takes a little bit of that. Maybe it's not substantial. Maybe Discmania stays flat and Prodigy, it pulls some of Prodigy's percentages. But you got to think that is going to migrate over to MVP as well. And I think that's a great point, because at a time when more and more manufacturers are popping up or brands are popping up and kind of diversifying where those sales are coming from. Now, the other thing to remember, take that infinite disc percentage, that's money in Innova's pocket, because Innova manufactures infinite discs, right? So I don't think it's quite as doom and gloom as it may have sounded for
No,
Innova.
it's not doom and gloom at all. I'll keep in mind also that these are percentages of total sales, with total sales having gone up like triple since 5 years ago.
A ton. Yes.
So
yes.
like everybody, the bigger
Right.
pie means that everybody's probably making more, but the relative market share
Correct.
has changed significantly at Infinite Discs.
And for MVP, right. And for MVP to be consolidating so much of that, I mean, it really is impressive. It's demonstrating a level of marketing savvy, and to see the increase of the way people have kind of bought into and become a part of the MVP ecosystem and marketing sphere is just something that really does deserve hats off to MVP. They are one of the most interactive brands when it comes to social media. You can be interacting with marketing development team about product releases. They hype their new product releases. They come out with stuff that feels exciting and new and fresh. And that's just not a feeling that I have about other brands. And I don't buy these MVP discs really. I don't purchase a ton of discs. I have my bag. I have I throw what I like. I throw Innova and Discraft discs, but the new Innova and Discraft releases to me feel flat. I haven't changed discs in my bag in quite a while, because there's just nothing really like exciting or intriguing to me about the next run of Tour Series discs that's going to come out of Innova that are the same mold and plastic combinations that they've been releasing for the past 4 years. And so I think there is a level of just growth and modernization coming out of MVP, paired with picking up guys like Simon and Eagle, that they really deserve hats off.
I think the question will be, can they sustain this level of growth and interest? Because they didn't do a very good job of that in 2023. Mm-hmm. Sure, I mean, they had all the hype, but you couldn't buy stock run.
Mm-hmm.
You have to enable people to start to transition their bag to your company and like take advantage of the fact. But they know that. Obviously, these are smart people. They're clearly aware that they're going to need to do that. And that will be their challenge in 2024 is, can they consolidate and, can they take on this level of financial risk when they're outbidding other companies for the services of individual players? But I mean, it's the homecoming, the like Crush Boys back together. Like, it's too good. It's too good. What an unbelievable, like, if you'd asked me 6 months ago whether MVP would sign Eagle, I would have said, there's no chance. That doesn't make any sense. But here we are.
Yep. I think the other thing that's interesting is, I think back to that Wall Street Journal article after Worlds in 2021, and and the quote, and I don't have it directly in front of me, but it was, my first thought was, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And then the second thought was like, oh no, we're in trouble,
totally screwed
because of the demand for discs. Oh yeah, right. Like we can't get enough discs. We can't get it out. And, I think back to that, and I think of like, I think that article did a really good job of highlighting the real challenges that exist in the supply demand cycle of disc golf. And that there are going to be challenges that come along with this, right? The investment in the infrastructure necessary to keep up with the demand that's going to be around Simon and Eagle this year are going to be substantial. And the investment of those players for the next 5 years for both of them and 10 years with Simon in order to continue to create ROI in the later years of those contracts is substantial. They are poised to become just such a powerhouse in disc golf, more so than, obviously they already are, based on those statistics that you provided. And it's going to be a challenge, and I'm very interested to watch the progression of MVP. And when we look back in 10 years, I think MVP is just going to be such a fascinating story about the modernization.
Who knows where MVP would be if that shot hadn't gone in from James Conrad? Right?
Right. I mean,
still growing, taking advantage of the COVID boom, but like, do they end up here?
mm-hmm.
I don't know. I hope we can get somebody on who's been around MVP long enough to try to answer that question, because I think that's a fascinating subplot of the growth of this company. Here's my question. When we look back in 10 years, like you said, what's the better deal? Gannon Buhr to Discmania or Eagle to MVP for the company?
Without knowing financials, I'm going to say Eagle. Like, unless there is a steal over at Discmania for Gannon and he turns around and starts flipping tons of discs, I have to say Eagle.
I feel like it's going to depend on the performance of the players, but right now it feels like the way MVP rolled this out and they duped everybody into thinking it was just a pixel release, and they like overhyped this disc everyone knew was coming, and then it was actually they tricked everybody and it was actually the Eagle announcement. I mean, it's beautiful marketing, and it kind of blows away the way Discmania handled theirs. Sorry.
It does.
Like, Discmania's came out on a Saturday. Yeah. We all knew it was coming. Like, I didn't do anything bad. It wasn't bad. It just doesn't sizzle. It didn't sizzle.
Well, and did I couldn't even tell you what Gannon's disc is. I watched the video. I don't remember what Gannon's disc. Yeah, and Eagle has this gorgeous.
They're throwing a stamp on the Envy
stamp, like with the Eagle. Oh, and it looks incredible.
They're going to sell a gazillion of those.
The Pixel comes out with
a gazillion of those. And I think right now what they have for Gannon,
you pair it with the pre-order of the Pixel
discs with mini Gannon stamp. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Discmania got flattened on this.
I think
on this one here.
For the current news cycle, I agree with you. But the question really is, what are we thinking about for the long term? Yeah. And I don't know that we have the answer to that yet. And Eagle's a bigger star than Gannon right now. So that was always going to be,
and so it's
always
hard
to
to
happen
see
this way.
And yes, I don't know how you. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I don't know what you do in order. Especially, I think the hard part is like, if you've known, and if Gannon's known that Discmania was it for this long, he should have announced his Prodigy contract was over, and 2 days later dropped this Discmania with a ton of discs ready to go and all the hype to try and beat out this hype that we knew was coming.
Man, it's just the fact that it's MVP. You know, if it was Eagle to Discraft or if it was Eagle to Innova, it wouldn't be quite the same. But the fact that it's bringing the Simon and Eagle back together, and that MVP like pulls this off, landing two of the literal biggest stars in disc golf in back-to-back off seasons, it's just amazing. It's amazing.
It is.
And it's not like Eagle wasn't going to get paid pretty good. You know, you wonder, like, will it pay off? But all signs point to these big mega contracts having paid off for their manufacturers.
Yeah, I think my question marks around the Ricky contract. I don't know if Dynamic Discs has made the money from the Ricky contract and be interested.
That's a fair point.
On that side. But Simon, Paul, I agree with both of those.
That's a fair point. Very interesting. Well, I mean,
yeah.
Eagle turned 25 this year, so he'll be 30. Yeah, I guess technically past athletic prime, but like very much still within the like peak performance years for disc golf.
Yeah. Yep. No, definitely. So he'll be 30. I guess I always think Eagle's older. I always think Eagle's like,
he's just been around so long. We're going to feel the same way about Gannon. We're 5 years from now, we're like, oh man, Gannon must be getting close to 30. No, he's going to be 25.
No,
24.
We're gonna feel that at the end of his deal, and he's going to be 23.
I'm going to be in the grave by the time
2022. Yeah,
you won't. I won't. By the time Gannon is done with professional level disc golf.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's what a move. What
do you
move
think
by
they're
MVP.
paying him? You think he's getting Simon money?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I think I don't know about the bonus and like all the extras, but I bet at the end of the day, his deal, incentives, disc sales together with his base is hitting $1 million a year.
I think it could.
I do.
I think the argument against it is the health.
Eagles contract might be performance, and there are certain like requirements of how many Pro Tour events he has to play in a year. Yeah, exactly. I think that they're probably you build those in there, but there's no reason that healthy Eagles should get $1 million.
I think Eagles worth it. I doubt he moves plastic quite to the same level as Simon and Paul, but with his popularity in Europe, like you cannot count that out.
And then pair it with Simon again.
My God, they're just going to sell crazy amounts of discs. They can make a combo disc, like a Crush Boys disc, and they can just sell that for $35 a disc and give each player $5 a disc, and everybody just makes a killing. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Wow, I'm blown away. I am blown away. What a move! I really didn't think that they were going to have the money to pull this off, but look at Simon out here hustling. Simon, Simon had to be a big part of this deal getting done. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
I think so too.
We want your thoughts. Hit us up, upshot@ultiworld.com. And we're now going to go to the 30-second rule segment that we promised earlier. We got a bunch of stuff still to get to there, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. It's time for 30-second rule, where we have 30 seconds to talk about each topic, and if we go over, it doesn't matter. Josh, take it away.
Well, we're going to start off. Chris Clemens announces his move to Discraft. This came a little while ago. There are no details of the terms, but this is something that was long speculated. Chris Clemens' van spotted at Discraft Warehouse, right? The classic sign. They come out with the video. It's a nice video. It seems like a nice fit, and I think Chris Clemens is gonna do well there. Because there's no terms, we don't know if their duration. Can probably assume that it's a 1-year deal. But we do have the landing place for Chris Clemens. I think another kind of higher profile player who had not yet announced.
Yeah, I think he's got the cool logo, got the cool stamps. Interesting that they put him on the tour team and not the top level team.
Yeah,
I guess that's justified. Like from his level of performance, Discraft's got a pretty competitive top team, and like he didn't outplay Anthony Barella or Paul or
right.
You name it. But will a change of scenery do him well? We'll see. I mean, I think if you're a left-handed player, you gotta love Chris Clemens, right?
I loved Discraft Instagram when they posted the video. Said when life gives you lefties, you make lemonade.
It's really good.
Great.
I don't know why. No one said that before, but it's amazing. It's an amazing line.
That is an amazing line. Hats off to the Discraft marketing team over there. Stacey Ronsley is extending with Castoplast and will be becoming the team manager. Makes her announcement over on Instagram. No details of terms there, but that's one of the Castoplast's top FPO players, and gets to keep her moving forward into the next season.
Yeah, I mean, look, Castoplast, a part of the House of Discs landscape. They're maybe going to use that as a brand where they park pros who are on the come up, smaller contracts, things like that. Seems like a very sensible deal to me. Stacey Ronsley's got a lot of upside as a player.
She does. And I think Castoplast has that nice, like, kind of, the Castoplast fans are dedicated fans. And having a pro like Stacey, I mean, that just gives them an opportunity to kind of market and sell a couple extra Tour Series discs maybe they wouldn't otherwise. Doesn't need the biggest reach necessarily either. So I think it's a nice fit. Another sponsorship announcement, Alden Harris signs a 2-year deal with Discmania. Another one that felt like a lot of the signs were pointing that way. Gannon leaving, Alden leaving, going together over to Discmania. The 2-year deal, I mean, this really feels like one of those kind of tier 2 player contracts that we see a lot of. That's a couple of years, lets them get some signature discs out and gives them a little bit of time to sell those discs. But obviously not the headline news that we see from the likes of Gannon and Eagle. Big congratulations to Alden Harris.
Very interesting. Alden Harris, because of his ability to make funny and interesting YouTube and social media content, is really punching above his weight class in terms of like notoriety and popularity relative to his on-course performance. He had a really nice 2022, like less impressive in 2023. Still a player with some upside for sure, but I think it wasn't obvious that Alden was going to be able to like go out into the market and get a nice deal. It's like been pretty tough for players at his level. But I think riding the coattails a little bit of Gannon and with his popularity online makes sense.
Well, and I'll even say, I think I'm going to give some credit to Alden Harris here. I think Alden going to Discmania helps raise Gannon's profile. Yes, he gets kind of right on those coattails. Yes, he goes with Gannon, and I think the two of them together, Alden probably benefits from that. But I think in the same way, Discmania gets more out of Gannon when Alden is with him, and Discmania is going to benefit from that, and Alden deserves some credit for that. So,
100%.
In a little bit different sponsorship news, Danny Lindahl, the creator of the Physics of Flight series, who's long been a part of Dynamic Discs, has announced that he will be leaving the organization. He's instead taking a role as a videographer over at Kansas State University. It feels kind of like the end of an era with Danny leaving. I learned how to play disc golf from the Physics of Flight series. I mean, he was the OG form instructor who I think does a really, really good job. And I still recommend people start with his videos when they're trying to get serious about their form in disc golf. I am sad to see him go. I think he's been an incredible person to have in the space of disc golf. Yeah,
it's sad. I agree with you. I think it's a sad thing, but you also have to look at the changing landscape of like Dynamic Discs used to be a media powerhouse when it came to creating content. They had podcasts and they had these Danny making form videos, and like they were a place that you would go and watch YouTube videos. And that's just not really a thing now. And I don't even necessarily think it's that like they blew it or something like that. I just think that there's kind of like a shifting sand of kind of what people are paying attention to. It's really too bad. I think to me, it's almost worse that he's leaving the industry outright. And like, to me, it's like total sign of, small recession right now in disc golf that I hope doesn't become bigger. And then my predictions for the year, I say it won't, but like, the fact that they couldn't or didn't want to pay him enough to stay in the job. We've seen a lot of departures from Dynamic Discs. It's too bad because I do think that like he was a valuable voice, and it's really, really important to have like independent thinkers and creators involved in disc golf that are not just like pros. And, I know he was working for a manufacturer, but it felt like he had a lot of creative freedom.
Yeah. I will say, I feel like the coaching and disc golf instruction for form instruction has evolved. I mean, if you go back and watch Danny's videos, it's very clear. I mean, he gives great form tips, and especially for a beginner just starting out, has some wonderful starting point advice. But from there, you have so many different options now that, some channels really focus on drills for people who are serious about wanting to do the drills. Hall and Hanley, I think, has some of the best videos for people who come from other sports backgrounds that really breaks down mechanics of disc golf for people from a sports background. We did the interview with Tech Disc, and for people who are very data driven and want to see those results, coaching just isn't what it used to be.
And how about overthrow resources? Overthrow disc golf. I mean,
that's overthrow is the one I was thinking of in terms of like drills that very clearly give you ways to work on it. But Physics of Flight are, I think, still one of the best introductory points to learning form. The options and branches.
Yeah, he will remain a face of disc golf, right? Because those videos aren't going to get taken off the internet, and maybe someday he'll find his way back. It wouldn't shock me. But good luck to Danny, and thanks for all the hard work that you put in over the years. Much of it probably
Absolutely.
a lot more work than people realize, and not that much money. All right, what's next?
Yeah. Next, we have another manufacturer switch. This one, though, is in Double G Craft Jerky. Double G posts on his Instagram that he's been having issues with his supplier and is going to be looking for a new supplier who'll be distributing his jerky under that Double G brand. No other details really posted, but something that he highlighted. I don't know what I'm going to do without being able to get my Gannon Buhr beef jerky.
What do you think the story is here?
I couldn't even begin to speculate.
I'm really curious. Like, was it a pricing issue? Did they try to jack up, the wholesale cost? Did they stop making some of the jerkies that he wanted to? I have a lot of questions. I will try to find out the answers. But I'm sure he'll find another jerky company willing to white label jerky. It's not the end of Double G jerky, but I find it all very a little strange, right? Like the post, like something like this happens, like you just quietly make a change, I would think. But I guess screw big jerky.
Yeah, that's
jerks.
Right.
Jerk move.
In case you were aware, Charlie's now a dad, and so Charlie now has the right to make these kind of jokes. Terrible joke.
Now, if you know jerk move, you know jerk move. That's all I'm going to say. Let's keep it moving.
Clash Disc made a post on their Instagram last week about the biggest thing to happen to Clash Discs was going to be released in the upcoming week. And when I saw that post, I was like, oh my gosh, did Clash land Eagle?
People were talking about
have we been wrong? Have we been wrong the entire time? Did Clash do it? And they're just tired of MVP getting all the free press? That's not the case. Clash released tone disc technology. It's a type of disc that has a stiff outer rim with a pliable inner core for the flight plate. Clash has, I think, a very nice kind of gummy, very soft premium plastic that they use on the inside core of this that then has this stiff rim. They say it's supposed to make it more torque resistant, just give it a little bit, more integrity in its flight path. I have yet to see. I mean, I saw the Instagram post and that's it. I have no idea how this is going to fly, but this is the big announcement from Clash Disc. Charlie, what do you think of this post here?
So I have two minds. Okay. My initial inclination is this is a total load of BS. This is just not going to do. This is going to make no difference in the flight of the disc.
Sure.
But I'm not sure that I truly deep down believe that. I think that there are ways that discs can still be tinkered with in order to improve flight characteristics in various ways. Because it stands to reason that, if you put more of the, for instance, if you put more of the plastic of the disc in the outside of the rim versus across the flight plate, that's going to have an effect on the gyroscopic stability of the disc, right?
Sure.
So I at least buy into the concept. Now, the thing is, I haven't actually seen any of this stuff tested. And so I'm a little skeptical that this is truly a breakthrough, but it could be.
It's also the other thing. So
it's good marketing.
First off, I want to applaud. It's good marketing, and I want to applaud innovation. I feel like we need more of this, right? Discs have been the same for years, and people still look for older runs of disc that they prefer the plastic feel or the flight characteristics or whatever. But discs are still largely the same, right? If you pick up an Innova Wraith from 20 years ago. A Wraith is still a Wraith, right? And you've got Halo plastic now, but plastic types aren't innovation.
Well, right, and plastic, but we know, you take a mold and you put it in a different plastic type, and it's going to have very different flight characteristics. So we already know that is true. So if you combine two different plastic types into one disc, why wouldn't that have an impact? Now, does this have some substantial improvement over a single plastic disc? That's where I'm not sure.
Who knows? Yeah, but I applaud the innovation. The part that I'm confused about, they say this is patented technology. I don't know how you patent this.
I don't know.
Like how do you patent a stiffer plastic on the outside with a softer plastic on the inside? And so if this truly is like the revolutionary breakthrough, I don't know how Innova doesn't just create a copy of it in some way and then continue just to outsell Clash because they're a huge powerhouse.
Yeah.
So that's my big question mark, and makes me wonder, like, should innovation come from these smaller manufacturers, or do you try and like do the testing, prove that it's better, and then go to Innova and sell it to them first?
It's an interesting question. Again, I want to see the science, right? Go to a wind tunnel and show me why this technology is better. Just telling me that it's better doesn't make
get the pucks on there.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Show me what the numbers look like. Yeah, agreed. All right, the last bit in 30-second rule here. Simon Lizotte announced and released his tour schedule, and you'll see that there's a chunk in late spring missing. Simon announced that he's going to be having a second kid. So big congratulations to Simon.
Congrats.
Looks like he's for the most part, he's going to have up a pretty full schedule. The biggest absence from his touring list is going to be Champions Cup. He will not be playing in that major. He still looks like he's going to be making a European trip, playing a couple of the early, like the Texas Swing. So pretty much a full tour minus
skipping the West Coast.
Yeah, West Coast and Champions Cup really is kind of what's missed out. But all in all, a pretty hefty tour still, and a big congratulations to Simon.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take some time off when you have a kid. And so it's a bummer we won't have him at the major. But I think otherwise we won't really feel his absence too much.
Yeah, agreed. That's it for 30-second rule.
Whew, what a show. What a news day. My gosh. So we will be back with our Gannon Buhr interview tomorrow or Thursday. It's a little unclear when that's all going to get wrapped up, but we look forward to talking with Gannon. And more to come on all of this offseason news. That's pretty much it, right? We're done. Oh, Nicholas Ontola, who I think is almost certainly going back to Discmania. I mean, like, Discmania is in the chat. Like, Nicholas's contract expired at the end of the year, but they're not saying he's leaving. They're just saying that his contract was up. So I just think this is all smoke and mirrors. And we're going to see him back.
I'm going to have some thoughts.
But, I got to get MVP. They did it the right way.
They did. Yep.
They trolled, but made it fun and interesting. I dig it. All right. That's going to do it for the show. We'll talk to you later this week, and we'll see you inside the circle if you're a subscriber at discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe.